Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 19th of January, 2023, and the time is 19 hours on the nose. Many of you will recognize my voice from the various voice notes that I've put out on various or several of the local community WhatsApp groups. And this time round, I decided to, in actual fact, do my presentation via the audio and video format, and not just the audio format alone. The reason for this is I wanted to introduce myself to those of you that actually have always just heard the voice notes but never knew who was talking to you. The name is Chad Milam. I actually am going to do this video presentation in my personal capacity, as well as my capacity as the director of MCOM Pty Limited, which is a two-way radio supply business, and finally as a director of Disaster Relief CERT. And the reason that I have chosen to represent myself wearing all three of my caps is ultimately to ensure that everything can be brought together in one neat bundle, if I can put it to you that way. And the big question that needs to be asked at the moment is, what rabbit hole are we going down with regards to various situations and incidents that are taking place in and around the country, in and around our local communities? And I make this statement as a result of what has transpired over the last couple of days, in particular, especially as we are, into a new year, and we are only 19 days into the new year. Yet, for me, it seems as though there's a lot of additional incidents that are taking place besides the adverse weather conditions, like the flooding that was experienced on the 9th of December last year. And not to mention, of course, the LPG gas tanker or LP gas tanker explosion in Boksburg on the 24th of December. I don't want to refer to those. What I do want to refer to is, and I know that this is a subject many people have been debating, discussing, complaining about, so much so that I've been monitoring the WhatsApp groups that I'm on, and I've been very quiet with regards to the issue around the electrical supply, load shedding, etc. Murphy's Law will always have it the minute I started recording, then the telephone will ring and I've got to, as you saw, sort of sail over to the other side to reset the phone. So coming back down to our electrical supply, our load shedding issues, for me, it's a major concern, and I'd like to address this or bring it to everybody's attention that watches this video, that we could be going down a very serious rabbit hole that's going to have many consequences on our individual lives, the lives of ourselves personally, but also the lives of our family, our friends, our workplaces, our colleagues, and everybody can or would be affected if this country were to fall down into this rabbit hole. And without sort of concentrating on the fear-mongering aspect, without looking at agitating people or building them up. Look, there's a lot of videos out there at the moment that do a pretty good job of that. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there as well. And this is where I need to be careful in terms of how I approach what I do, in particular as a director of Disaster Relief CERT. And for those of you that don't know, the acronym CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Teams. And the concept of Disaster Relief CERT is to build up emergency response teams drawn from local communities. And of course, now this will tie up with MCOM and then myself in a personal capacity. I mean, I am a member of a local community. For those of you that don't know, but I'm in the Constantia Kloof area in Roodepoort. I know we got some crazy people out here, and I'll probably lead the pack, but let's not go down that path, please. However, that being said, I wanted to ensure, firstly, that, as you can see, my beautiful patio there in the background. I don't get much time to actually spend any quality time there because I'm always caught up at the desk, and WhatsApp keeps me busy and all the rest of it. But what I do want to do is I actually want to share the screen with everybody, in particular the news broadcasts that have been put out. So I don't want to concentrate on all the videos that are circulating, especially the TikTok videos that are circulating, that are creating fear amongst communities, that could in actual fact just be pure speculation or conspiracy theories or anything along those lines. I want to avoid that. But what I do want to zone in on and focus in on is just some of the reporting that has taken place in the last week. So as you can see on screen here, 5 days ago, as reported by News 24, SA is one step away from stage 8 load shedding as breakdowns and cash shortages lead to disaster. Now, it's ironical that, we're talking about stage 8, and bring myself back up on screen here, that this article in particular is referencing stage 8. I want you to go back 4-5 years to our last bout of load shedding, where I think we didn't exceed stage 4. Yet there was a schedule out there that indicated that, that we could go up to stage 8. And everybody sat back and, no, it'll never happen. It won't happen. It'll never happen. Well, here we are, looking at a possibility of stage 8. Is it possible? Absolutely. At this moment in time, anything is possible. And I don't think that any of us can dispute that. We can moan, we can complain, we can do everything that we want. There are avenues and routes that we need to pursue. But we also need to be realistic in terms of, the outcome of what is currently transpiring within the country, within our local communities. Now, moving on, the other thing that's also come to the forefront in the last couple of days, this is now the 13th of January, where it is stated that Eskom forces South Gauteng High Court to close its doors. Again, reported by one of the news media. So it's not a statement that I'm making. It's not an accusation that I'm making. I'm just referring and referencing media releases that are currently taking place. So when we start looking at the threatening of stage 8 load shedding, and we're currently sitting in this 4, 5, and 6 sort of area of the stages for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we're now beginning to see other consequences of the load shedding, instead of just purely looking at, it's pitch dark out there. But here is the judiciary coming to a grinding halt as a result of it as well. Then, on top of that, here's another News 24 report. Prepaid electricity crisis with 70 million meters may stop working next year. Is this true or not? It's not for me to say. But I think as a diligent citizen of the country, I need to take cognizance of, statements that are made here. And in this particular case, it has to do with the date system of the prepaid meter. And for those of you that remember Y2K, the amount of preparation and work and backup systems that had to be put in place in order to ensure that if everything failed on the 1st of January 2000 or 2000 at least, we'd be able to have information for our businesses to continue operating. And I spent many hours. I was still employed by the Industrial Development Corporation in those days. And we spent many, many hours in preparation for this. And now we've got a problem that there's this potential talk of stage 8. Stage 6 was never thought of a couple of years ago, but here we are. Yeah, we got 70 million meters that could be a problem. And then to top it all, just today, 1 hour ago, 40,000 chickens killed. And the farmer's to put in a 1.5 million claim for the loss of his chickens. All due to the instability of the electrical network. Now, just stop and think about that one there on 40 million chickens, one farmer. How many chicken farmers are there? What is going to happen to our egg supply, let alone our chicken supply? There was that report in December where one of the food chains closed 70 of their stores because there was a lack of supply of chickens. This now is another issue on top of the darkness, on top of being unable to cook, on top of the judiciary now coming to a standstill. We already know that we've got a water crisis that is busy building up and growing in the country, with many areas unable to actually fill their reservoirs because the pumps don't work. The pumps can't pump water. And so it goes on. And then on top of all of this, we've got SAMSA, the South African National Space Agency, giving us talks about space weather and the impact that space weather has on our electronic devices, on our communication devices, and everything else that goes along with it. And as quoted by Dr. Leanne McKinnell, Managing Director of SAMSA in Hermanus, while she was speaking to John Matham to illuminate us further why space weather forecasting is so important and its broader implications in terms of telecommunications, navigation, and even agriculture. Hold on a second. Did I say navigation? There you guys are, all looking for pin drops in order to dispatch ambulances. There you are as ordinary citizens looking for your GPS and your pin drops to get from one client to the next. I mean, it's bad enough that, while you're driving, you've got petrol in your car. Well, for now you have at least anyway. Who knows? Tomorrow they might not be able to pump petrol into your car. What then? But your navigation devices are being affected by space weather as well. So, we can't win. We just cannot win. I mean, this just goes on and on and on. And let's have a look at this article that was now released on the 18th of January. That's yesterday. So it's just like 24 hours ago. The terrible toll of load shedding on SA's mobile networks. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for all of us to catch a wake up as to the dire situation that we find ourselves in. And yeah, I know there's many skeptics out there say, man, it's bull. It's not happening. It'll never happen. Cell phones will never stop working. Hang on a second. Just have a look and see. What the major mobile networks have had to say. It's proving to be, and I quote, a hugely expensive problem for South Africa's mobile operators, which are battling day in and day out to keep their networks running during extended periods without electricity. If it is so expensive, how long are they going to be able to continue spending money to this degree? And the inability of South Africans to communicate because their local cell phone tower has gone down impacts their ability to do business and be productive. further harming economic growth. Hold on. Let's take the share away here. There we go. I'm back on screen. I want to read that quote again. And the inability of South Africans to communicate because their local cell phone tower has gone down impacts their ability to do business and be productive, further harming economic growth. Well, what about jeopardizing life or increasing the risk of loss to life in times of an emergency? I'm not talking a disaster. I'm talking normal day-to-day emergencies. I'm not talking about people who are at home and are reliant on medical equipment that is reliant on electricity. But now we've got a problem that if a situation were to arise, you're going to pick up your cell phone and nothing's going to work. What then? And that's the point that I want to zone in on. The last share that I want to cover is actually, I must in actual fact mention, so I'll bring it up on the share as well. Not only was the Gauteng South High Court affected by load shedding, but the Pretoria Magistrates Court as well. So we've got a much larger area that's been affected. The court systems have been affected. Everybody has been affected. And then, of course, we get down to these water wars where thirsty Free State residents torch municipal building and demand water. There's that video out there where there's a warning that, you know, we could see this type of thing happening as a result of the lack of electricity. No electricity, no water supply, no cooking of food. The food supply overall is now being brought into jeopardy. There's a high risk of lower food being, or the inability to provide food at a sustainable level moving forward. Irrigation systems can't pump water. We got a water crisis to start off with. No electricity, you can't get the water down to the farms to fill their dams, their reservoirs. They don't have electricity to pump the water to grow the veggies. We got livestock now that's just, literally dying as a result of many aspects. That's the joys of having about 10 different voice over IP numbers. They reset every now and again. So the lack of supply is really affecting everything, including our communications. And again, I know there are many of you that are going to say it'll never happen. Well, guess what? Was it last week, Thursday, the 12th, or Friday, where one of the major fiber networks went down? I wonder how many of you actually realized your cell phone networks also went down. I wonder how many of you actually realized that you were unable to send even WhatsApp messages, let alone being able to pick up the phone and make a telephone call. Because at that time, those networks were not working. Your local cell phone tower, which might be across the road, could have had electricity, but the backhaul, in other words, the connectivity between that tower and the other tower to get your call out to wherever, wasn't there because the fiber network was down. Your data wasn't working, so when you got your WhatsApp message, many people didn't realize that that message may have been sent 30 minutes prior to you receiving it, 2 hours prior to that. And then we just sit back and we take it for granted. No, WhatsApp is slow. No, WhatsApp not slow. Not at all. Cell phone network has failed. Communication has failed. Your life could be in jeopardy. The life of your family could be in jeopardy. And these are the things that I think communities now need to start considering, and we need to build a resilient network where we've got greater communication capabilities. Now, I must say this, and I speak now as disaster relief CERT or a representative of disaster relief CERT. We may find ourselves in a position where only certain geographical areas are affected at any given moment or time, which is actually very good news, believe it or not. Not good news for the affected area, but if we build a resilient and appropriate community emergency radio network within our communities, within our complexes, within our estates, within our local suburbs, whichever way we look at it, that if something were to happen and our cell phone coverage is not there, our cell phone capabilities have failed, stopped working or otherwise, that we can pick up a radio and call for help. We will not lose lives of our loved ones. Through this type of community emergency radio network, this is now where I speak as MCOM, we would in actual fact be able to communicate with others or those who are outside of the affected area, which means there is still a possibility that we could in actual fact request ambulance services, medical services, fire services from people outside of our area, because if it's in our area or the affected area, we might not be able to communicate. And that is the bottom line. So I know it's taken a lot to get to this point, but I just wanted to create a little bit of an awareness of what actually is happening. And to summarize it quite simply, no electricity, no water, no food, 40,000 chickens dead. Eggs are going to not be available either. I mean, no chickens, no eggs. No cell phone networks, no communication, no fuel. Am I fear-mongering? Absolutely not. I want you to sit back and think about it and consider this. And really consider building a community emergency radio network within your local community, within your local area. Speak to your neighbors, speak to your contacts on social media, speak to the local community groups that you are a member of, and start building these radio networks up amongst your communities. Agree on having certain people act as a base station whereby people will in actual fact be able to key up a microphone and make contact with somebody that could in actual fact either pick up a telephone on your behalf because they've got cell phone coverage, and if they don't, they can actually call somebody outside of the network to another radio operator. And that is the point that I would like you to consider. So that being said, I see it as 7:30. It's about 30-minute video, which I'm probably going to post up on one or another account on YouTube to make it easily accessible to the South African population as a whole, ultimately. If you are watching this video, please share the link then with your friends, your family, your colleagues. And of course, you know, I don't want the video to be a marketing video per se. However, when it comes down to the radio communications network, just go and Google mcom.coza or go to the URL mcom.coza. Send me a message off of the website, and then we can look at how we're going to help you grow a communication network, because if things get any worse, communications is going to be our last line of defense. Ultimately, two-way radio communications will be our last line of defense when it comes to being able to transmit emergency messages to request for help or assistance. And at least while you do have some petrol in your car, you could charge your handheld radio using the car cigarette lighter socket or battery, whichever way. And of course, if you're on a solar system, you can also, there are many ways to ensure that you are able to charge up your two-way radio. And again, I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but you can charge my cell phone in the same manner. True, you can. But what does that help when your cell phone's not going to talk to anybody because the cell phone towers are dead? That now is where our problem comes in. So really and truly consider the building of a community-based emergency radio network and put in place as a community. It's time that the communities now started, in actual fact, to fend for themselves. And that is not finger pointing at anybody at all, but it is really something that I think we need to consider. So that being said, I want to bid everybody farewell because, as I said, it's just gone after 19:30, almost time to go into load shedding. And of course, all I'm going to say is be prepared, be safe. I'm hesitating as to what to say here. And of course, be happy. That's why I was hesitating, because I know a lot of people are not happy at the moment, and I think things may just get worse. So have a good one. We'll catch you all on the next video. That's if there is another video. We'll see. Thank you for watching. This video was brought to you by MCOM PDY Limited, a commercial community-based emergency communications radio network supplier. Our intention is to bridge the radio communications gap between communities and all services. As a result of, we are implementing a community emergency radio network a solution whereby local communities can come together, implement a radio network which will provide them not only communication between themselves, but also to areas outside of an area where electricity may have failed, cell phone networks, etc. may have failed. We believe that this has become a necessity in today's times, especially due to the load shedding that is currently being experienced, and where cell phone networks are failing on a regular basis, which also includes the failure of fiber networks due to the lack of electrical supply, the lack of battery backups, the lack of charging capabilities. And the good news is that with two-way radio communications, our local communities will still be able to charge their not their cell phones, but their radios at least, during times of load shedding via solar solutions, or alternatively via their cigarette port in their motor vehicle. So there are many ways to keep communication capabilities available, allowing communities to communicate, especially emergency related information amongst themselves, but also to areas outside of the area that is being load shed.